Good morning. Hip joint assessment part 2 from physical and functional diagnosis. In last lecture, we learned about brief anatomy of hip joint, history, investigation, observation, on palpation and on examination. Now we will learn about special tests which are done in hip joint assessment for diagnosing hip joint pathology. Special tests which we will perform in hip joint are test for hip pathology, test for impingement, test for labral lesion, test for femoral neck stress fracture, pediatric test for hip pathology, test for leg length, test for muscle tightness and pathology. In this test for impingement and test for femoral neck stress fracture, we have to learn only names of these tests as specificity and sensitivity of these tests are very less. So practically they are not much useful. Also in test for muscle tightness and pathology, many tests we have learned in lumbar joint assessment. Now we will start with test for hip pathology. In this we will learn about Patrick test, other name is Faber or figure 4 test, flexion adduction test and hip score test. Now we will see flexion adduction test. This is very important test in diagnosing hip pathology. Patient position is supine lying. Significance is when the test is positive, that indicate that there is hip pathology present. Now we will see procedure. Procedure is examiner flexes patient hip to at least 90 degree with knee flex as we can see in the figure. Then adduct the leg. When adduction of leg is done, we have to see whether leg is adducted in how much range. So as we can see in the figure, if leg is adducted at first zone, that means hip is normal. If it is adducted to second zone, that means there is mild to moderate hip pathology is present. If adduction does not occur at all, that means if leg is present in third zone, that means hip pathology is present, which is very severe. Positive sign, adduction is limited accompanied by pain and discomfort. Okay, also if there is adduction possible in zone 2 and 1 but still patient have pain and discomfort, that means the test is positive and hip pathology is present. Negative sign, knee passes over opposite hip without rolling pelvis. That means knee passes over zone 1, that means test is negative. Next test is hip score test. Patient position is supine lying. Significance is hip pathology. Procedure. As we can see in the figure, the examiner passively flexes and adducts the subject hip and places the knee in full flexion, as we can see in the first figure. The examiner then applies a downward force along the shaft of the femur while passively adducting and externally rotating the hip. As we can see in figure 1, patient is applying a downward force. In figure 2, therapist is applying a downward force, and in figure 2, therapist is passively adducting and externally rotating the hip. The examiner then passively adduct and internally rotate the hip while keeping the downward pressure through the femur, as we can see in figure 3 and 4. So if we see any pain or apprehension or unusual movement at hip joint, that means test is positive for hip pathology. Next tests are test for impingement, anterior posterior impingement test and posterior inferior impingement test. We have to learn only name of these tests. Next is test for labral lesion, anterior labral tear test and posterior labral tear test. First we will see anterior labral tear test. In this, patient position is supine lying. Significance is anterior labral integrity. Patient position is supine lying. Procedure is the examiner takes the hip into full flexion. As we can see in the figure, first figure, hip is taken into full flexion, then lateral rotation and full abduction. This is the starting position. Then the examiner extend the hip from flexion. We have to take leg in extension combined with medial rotation, as we can see in the figure, and the arrow indicating that hip is taken in medial rotation and adduction. So if patient feel pain or pain is produced or other symptom are reproduced with or without a click, that means that test is positive for anterior labrum pathology. Other name are Federer test, that means flexion, adduction, internal rotation. The end position is flexion, adduction, internal rotation. That's why other name is given Federer test and anterior apprehension test. Now we will see posterior labral tear test. It is not asked in theory, but it is important for practical, so we have to read this also. Patient position is supine lying. Procedure is same as we have seen in anterior labral tear test, but the starting position is the end position of anterior labral tear test. The examiner takes the hip into full flexion, adduction and medial rotation as a starting position. That was end position in anterior labral tear test. Then the examiner take the hip into extension combined with abduction and lateral rotation, as we can see the white arrow. So that is the end position, opposite of what we did in starting position. If patient have production of pain or reproduction of the patient's symptoms with or without click, that means test is positive for posterior labral tear test. Now test for femoral neck stress fracture. This also we have to learn name only. Fulcrum test for hip, heel strike test, patellar pubic percussion sign. Next test are pediatric test for hip pathology. These are very important tests. Abduction test, Ortolani sign, Barlow's test, Galeazzi sign and telescoping sign. First we will see abduction test. Patient position is supine lying. Significance is congenital hip dislocation. As we can see in figure, hip and knees flexed to 90 degree, then abducted both leg. Positive sign is asymmetry or limitation of the movement. So as we can see in this figure, first figure is normal at birth to 1 month of age, that is 90 degree of abduction. Then after normal 1 to 9 month of age, suspected significant limitation. If it is only 60 degree, that means there is suspected limitation, and if it is less than 50 degree, that means there is definite limitation. Other name of test is heart sign. So if there is asymmetry or limitation of movement, then abduction test is positive and there are chances of congenital hip dislocation. Next is Ortolani sign. Ortolani sign and Barlow test is similar. Patient position is supine lying. Significance congenital hip dislocation in both. Positive sign if we feel clunk, clink or jerk, and it is done up to 12 week or 6 month baby. So procedure is, first we will see the figure. So for Ortolani test, we have to grasp the thigh. You can see the patient therapist hand which has grasped the thigh of the baby. Grasp the thigh and leg with the thumb on the medial side. As we can see the two blue arrow. One thumb is holding the medial side of the thigh, and fingers alongside the lateral side of thigh and hip. Then we have to flex the hip to 90 degree and knees fully flexed. Then abduct while lifting it forward. So we have to lift the leg forward. In Barlow's test, we have to grasp the thigh and leg with thumb on the medial knee, as we have seen in Ortolani test, and fingers alongside the thigh and hip. Then we have to flex the hip to 90 degree and knee fully flexed. Then abduct and then adduct while pushing downward. This method is also useful in relocation of dislocated hip. If we feel clunk, clink or jerk, that means test is positive. So that was Barlow test and Ortolani test, which is done when baby is up to 12 weeks or 6 months. Next is Galeazzi sign. Patient position is supine lying. Significance is unilateral congenital hip dislocation. In this, we have to ask the patient, or passively we have to flex the hip and knee to 90 degree with feet flat on the table. And we have to observe the height of the knee. If one knee is higher, as we can see in the figure, one knee is higher than the other, that means the test is positive. So there is unilateral congenital hip dislocation on the limb that is lower. So here, if left knee is lower, that means on left side, as we can see in this arrow, on left side there is hip dislocation. So test is positive. Other name of this test is Ellis test, and this is performed in the baby of 3 to 18 months. Next test is telescopic sign. Patient position is supine lying, hip and knees flexed to 90 degree. Significance is congenital hip dislocation. So here in procedure, femur is pushed downward on the table. As we can see in the first figure, the red arrow shows that femur is pushed downward on the table and hip and knees flexed to 90 degree. Then femur and leg is lifted up away from the table, as we can see upward going red arrow in the second figure. So if there is excessive movement upon lifting up, that means that test is positive. Other name of telescoping sign is piston test or Dupuytren test. Next is test for leg length. Now leg length can be of two types: true leg length discrepancy or true shortening, functional leg length discrepancy or functional shortening. True leg length discrepancy or true shortening is caused by an anatomical or structural changes in lower leg resulting from congenital maldevelopment. For example, in adolescent Coxa-Vara, congenital hip dysplasia, bony abnormality, or if there is any trauma, for example fracture. Because an anatomical short leg results, the spine and pelvis are often affected, leading to lateral pelvic tilt and scoliosis. Functional leg length discrepancy or functional shortening result of compensating for a change that may have occurred because of positioning rather than structure. That means in these cases there is no direct structure involvement, but because of any structural changes there is functional leg length discrepancy. Example, a functional leg length discrepancy occur because of unilateral foot pronation or spinal scoliosis. So scoliosis can lead to pelvic tilt, that can lead to functional leg length discrepancy. Now when we have to do a true leg length measurement and when we have to do a true leg length measurement and when we have to perform apparent leg length measurement, that we will understand with this flow chart. When we are measuring the true leg length, the method we will learn in next slide. So if patient have no true leg length difference in both the leg, then true leg length discrepancy is present. Okay, so that means that we have to measure a segmental leg length to see that whether pelvis part is abnormal or femur part is abnormal or tibial part is abnormal. If when we are measuring true leg length and it is normal, okay, that means both the leg are same, that means there are chances that because of any other pathology like scoliosis, there are chances that apparent leg length discrepancy is present. So we have to measure apparent leg length discrepancy. When we measure apparent leg length discrepancy and we found that that is normal, that means patient have no leg length discrepancy. Maybe patient posture is such that like that we have observed that patient have leg length discrepancy on observation. If patient do not have normal apparent leg length measurement, then we have to check and there is apparent leg length discrepancy present in the patient. Now these are the method for apparent and true leg length measurement. For apparent and functional shortening, patient position is supine lying, as we can see in the figure, in this. Patient position is supine lying. So examiner measure the distance from the tip of the xiphisternum, as we can see, tip of the xiphisternum or umbilicus to the medial malleolus. If difference is 1 or 1.5 centimeter, then that is normal. For true leg length, patient position is same, supine lying. In this, pelvis should be squared or levered or is in balance with the lower limb. For that, we can ask patient to do bridging and then extend his limbs. Legs 15 to 20 centimeter apart and parallel to each other. Examiner measures from the ASIS, as we can see in the figure, from ASIS to the lateral or medial malleolus. If we found that 1 or 1.5 centimeter difference is present in both the leg, then that is normal. More than that is abnormal. Now we will see segmental method. For segmental measurement, from the iliac crest to the greater trochanter of the femur for coxa vara or coxa valga, from greater trochanter of the femur to the knee joint line on the lateral aspect for femoral shaft shortening, from the knee joint line on the medial side to the medial malleolus for tibial shaft shortening. So that was about limb length measurement. Now prone knee flexion test. Patient position is lying prone. Significance, examining length of the tibia. So if we are observing that tibial length might be different, so we will perform prone knee flexion test. Procedure: examiner places the thumb, as we have told, patient is in prone lying. Examiner places the thumb transversely across the sole of the foot, just in front of the heel. The knees are flexed 90 degree and the relative height of the thumb are noted. So we have to ask the patient to flex the knee, both the knee 90 degree, and then we place the thumb on the sole of the feet and we observe both the heel. If there is difference in the heel, that means the length of the tibia is different in both the leg and test is positive and there are chances for segmental limb length discrepancy. Next test is hip flexion test. Patient position is supine with hip and knee flexed to 90 degree, and this test we perform for examining length of the femur. So we have to ask patient to do hip and knee flexion 90 degree like this in the figure, and we have to observe the length of the femur. We have to observe the height of the knee as we saw in the telescopic sign test. So when we are observing the knee, if one femur is longer than the other, one knee will be higher and other will be lower. That means hip flexion test is positive. Next is Weber-Bairstow maneuver or visual method. So in this, patient position is supine with hip and knee flexed. Significance measuring leg length as asymmetry. In this, examiner stand at the patient feet as we can see in the first figure, in figure A, and palpate the distal aspect of medial malleoli with the thumb. The patient then lift the pelvis from the bed, and that means patient do the bridging and return to the starting position. Examiner then passively extend the patient leg and compare the position of malleoli using the border of the thumb. So if there is different level of medial malleoli, that means there is asymmetry in leg length and test is positive. Now we will see test for muscle tightness and pathology. These tests are very important for theory and practical. So in this we will learn about abduction contracture test, adduction contracture test, bent knee stretch test for proximal hamstring, Noble compression test, piriformis test, tightness of hip rotators, Ellis test, hamstring contracture test, 90-90 straight leg test, Ober test, rectus femoris contracture test, Thomas test, Trendelenburg sign and tripod sign. These tests which are present in this slide that we have already learned in lumbar and pelvic assessment. So first we will see abduction contracture test. Patient position is supine lying. Significance as test name suggests abductor muscle contracture, that is gluteus medius or minimus. Procedure: check for the asymmetry. Patient is in supine lying. Check for the asymmetry of ASIS, both the ASIS, and balance the pelvis. So we have to ask the patient to do the bridging. If ASIS form an angle more than 90 degree and pelvis shift down on the affected side, okay, as we can see this is normal patient, so both the ASIS is forming 90 degree angle with the leg. If it is more than 90 degree and pelvis shift downward on the affected side, that is it is lowered on the affected side, that means that abductor muscle contracture is present, or that means gluteus medius and minimus muscle are contracted. So that was abduction contracture test. In adduction contracture test, patient position is same, supine lying. In this, adductor muscle contracture is present, that are adductor longus, brevis, magnus, pectineus and gracilis. Procedure: check for the asymmetry of ASIS and balance the pelvis by doing the bridging. Ask the patient to do the bridging. Positive sign: if ASIS forms an angle less than 90 degree and pelvis shift up on the affected side, that is hip hiking occur, that means there is adduction contracture present on the hiked side. That means if hiking has occurred on right side, that means right side adductor are tight or contracted. So that was abduction and adduction contracture test. Next is bent knee stretch test for proximal hamstring. Patient position is supine lying. Significance: hamstring tightness on proximal part. Procedure: examiner, as we can see in the first figure, examiner is flexing the affected leg, hip and knee maximally. We have to flex the leg maximally and then slowly extend the knee. We are not extending the hip, but we are only extending the knee. So if pain in hamstring at ischial origin occur, that means hamstring tightness is present at the proximal part. As we know that hamstring is two joint muscle, so because of passive insufficiency, patient cannot extend the knee completely. So that was bent knee stretch test for proximal hamstring. Next is Noble compression test. Noble compression test is very important for theory and practical. Patient position is supine lying. Knee is flexed 90 degree with hip flexion. As we can see, knee is flexed 90 degree with hip flexion. Significance is iliotibial band friction syndrome. So we will see the procedure. So as we learn that patient is in supine lying, knees flexed 90 degree with hip flexion. Now therapist apply pressure to the lateral femoral epicondyle. As we can see, left hand of the therapist is present on lateral side of the lower thigh or upper part of the knee, and it is applying pressure to the lateral femoral epicondyle or 1 to 2 centimeter proximal to it. While the pressure is maintained, patient slowly extend the knee. So you have to ask the patient to slowly extend the knee like this. So we can see the red marks, that is indicating where you are applying pressure or where patient will feel the pain, and patient is extending the knee 30 degree. So localize pain at 30 degree knee flexion while patient is doing extension of knee and patient feels pain. That means that test is positive and there is iliotibial band friction syndrome present. So that was Noble compression test. Next test is piriformis test. Patient position is side lying, upper or chest affected leg in 60 degree hip flexion and knee is in flexion. So significance is piriformis muscle tightness or piriformis syndrome. Now in procedure, we have to stabilize the pelvis. As we can see that patient is in side lying and upper chest leg or affected leg is 60 degree hip flexion and knee is also flexed. Therapist one hand is stabilizing the pelvis and other hand is applying a downward pressure to the knee. Patient leg will be slightly outside the plinth. So when we are applying a pressure, if there is pain in the buttocks and if patient says that there is radiating pain, the pain that occur because of sciatic nerve compression, that is known as sciatic pain. So if pain occur, radiating pain or pain is present in the buttocks, that means piriformis muscle tightness is present or piriformis syndrome is present. So test is positive for both the pathology. So that was piriformis test. This is also very important. Next test is tightness of hip rotators or lateral rotators. So patient position is supine lying with hip and knee flexed to 90 degree. So this is the patient position. Other test is tightness of hip rotator, medial rotator. Procedure is same for both the test. In this also patient position is supine lying with hip and knee flexed to 90 degree. Significance in hip lateral rotator tightness test is lateral hip rotators tightness as the name suggests, and in medial rotators are tight. Procedure: patient is asked to medially rotate the hip by rotating the leg outward, as we can see in the first figure. Positive sign is if medial rotation is less than 30 to 40 degree and the end feel will be muscle stretch rather than the capsule stretch. That means there is lateral hip rotators tightness. And if when patient asked to laterally rotate the hip by rotating the leg inward, as we can see in the second figure, and lateral rotation is less than 40 to 60 degree and the end feel will be muscle stretch rather than a tissue or capsular stretch, that means there is tightness of medial rotators. So that was hip rotators tightness test. Thank you.